out of town. When you live in the Midwest, it's nice to take advantage of the weekends as much as you possibly can because the winter will be back here before you know it. But I did want to give you something to work on this week. And what we're going to be doing is looking at different ways of trying to get creative with your guitar playing. A lot of times when we learn things, we learn how to play chords and whatever that might be, and maybe we're learning songs and we get inspired by that. We, as guitar players, there's a lot of different tonality and color that we can use in our chords by simply doing some exploration. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to start with an A major chord. Okay? Now the first thing I'm going to do with this chord, when I was a kid, a lot of times what I would try and do is I would learn my chords and then I would try and see if I could make something more interesting by either lifting a finger up or putting a finger down somewhere where it wasn't normally on the guitar. So if I was playing this A chord, for instance, I have my first finger available, but there's not a lot I can do. Maybe I could do something like that, which kind of sounds like Garth Brooks, but let's do this instead. I'm going to take the middle finger, or the pinky, I'm going to take the pinky off the guitar. And that gives me what's called an A sus2. Now, it's okay if you don't know what that is, but that's what it would be called. And what I'm going to do with this chord then is I'm going to start looking at ways of being able to move it around to get some different sounds. So let's say I did something like this. And let's say that was good, okay? But there's something I want to change in there. So it's the second chord. Instead of going, which is fine, but I'm just going to look for something different. So instead, I'm going to try this. Okay, well, that sounds kind of cool, but that note is kind of weird. So what I'm going to do is take that note right there and try something else with it. So maybe I'm going to try this. And I kind of like that. Now, that doesn't mean that you like that. I'm just trying to show you how you can go from a traditional chord into something that sounds a little more interesting and might be a little more inspiring for you, especially if you're a songwriter. If you like to, mess around on your guitar and make up stuff, this is a great way of doing that. So I'm using my ear, I'm using my eyes, obviously, trying to think about how I'm moving this around. But then after I've done that, I start trying to kind of refine it a little bit by thinking about how it sounds in my head. So instead of, which is cool, there's nothing wrong with that, and you might like that better, and that's okay. But instead, I went, this note just did not work at all, so I decided to just try the one from the original A chord. I could have tried something else. Maybe I go, see, now I'm taking the 5 from the third chord that I'm playing, and I'm just adding that in, and I might decide I like that better. And I could keep reformulating these as much as I want to find what I'm looking for. The one trap I will caution you about is when you start doing stuff like this, you just have to be careful that you're not spending 7 hours on, one little piece. The goal is to try and find something that you like. You can always refine it even more later, but if you're trying to write a song, don't get lost in the weeds and then you never finish what it was you were trying to do in the first place because you're constantly just thinking about, every possible voicing. Now, if you're looking at just playing guitar and you're looking at voicings and it isn't about songwriting, you're just trying to explore all the options, and this is a wonderful thing for you to do. Okay, so let's go with another direction here. Let's say I did something where I've got an A minor bar chord. Okay, so instead of playing that A minor chord, bar chord, what I'm going to do is just take a couple of notes out of it. A lot of times I like the sound of open strings along with something that maybe originally was something else. So in this case, I'm going to play 0, 7, 5, 0, 0. So I have. Now I might be doing a strumming thing, or I might be doing a picking thing. whatever it might be. So what I'm going to do now, again, I have these available fingers, so I start thinking about, well, what's some other stuff that I could do? Well, maybe what I'll do is, and then I'm going to add my pinky here on the 8th fret. So instead of doing this long, picking thing, maybe what I'll do is shrink that up into... And maybe I'll start with that. Maybe instead of starting with the 0, I'm going to start with this 8. And then maybe I'll go to the 6 since my middle finger's available. So I have... Now I have to figure out what to do from here. So I've got... Maybe I'll just bar over these guys and do... And then again, maybe I'm making just a single... But see, it formulates as I'm hearing this. I start thinking about, well, I kind of like the descension of those pitches, but instead of having the pattern be so long, maybe I'll make it just a little bit shorter. And then I have to decide on something else to do. So maybe I'll move down into the G territory. I'm still going to use the A as my bass note, but I'm going to use those 3 notes of G. You see? Now, again, I could do something else. But because the first part is already doing a descension, maybe I won't do the same descension on the second one to make them sound a little different. So my point is that this doesn't require a metronome. You're not really thinking about this in terms of scales, although that can certainly be beneficial for trying to find voicings and notes that kind of collaborate with each other, that function well with each other. But to be honest with you, even if you took a step back from that and just really try to use your ear and think about how things sound, and you can do this all over the place. I mean, I'm just showing you 2 very simple ideas. One was moving more up the guitar this way, and one was using a fragment of a larger chord and then kind of exploring from there. But you can do all kinds of stuff like this. So again, just something to think about for the week. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay positive, keep practicing. Head over to guitarzoom.com for any of your guitar learning needs. I would love to help you with it. Most importantly, I just want you to enjoy what you're doing, all right? So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.